So good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be your moderator for this panel. I hope you're going to find it interesting, useful, and enjoyable. I mean, it really should be, given that our topic is usability, and we have a panel full of usability experts. So delivering something interesting and useful and enjoyable should be our goal there.
Wow, if it's this rowdy now, I can't wait to see the cocktail hour.
Okay. So our title today is Usability is King. And we're going to build on what we've learned from Tara's talk this morning, and we're going to explore the role of usability as part of the customer experience, and specifically what we can learn to help us create a better experience for our customers. So the first question we have to ask ourselves is, what do we mean by usability? It sounds like a pretty obvious or intuitive sort of term, but in fact it's not actually very self-explanatory. So the first thing that probably comes to mind for most people is ease of use. However, just being easy to use does not necessarily mean that it's got great usability. Like, for instance, some products would appear on first glance to be very well designed for their purpose, but when you get them in the actual user environment, you may encounter problems you hadn't foreseen that are going to affect its usability. So how do we define usability? There are many different definitions. I kind of like this one. It says, the extent to which something can be used by its targeted users to achieve their objective with a high level of effectiveness, efficiency, and satisfaction. So far from being simple, that's actually a pretty tall order. Now, physical products are one area, but when we're dealing with online, we've got a whole different set of issues and challenges to deal with. I'm sure we've all encountered websites that are staggeringly bad, but disaster cases aside, we have to ask ourselves, what is the impact on our business of providing clients with a poorly designed user experience? Well, here are some statistics. According to one survey, 85% of people will abandon a website due to a bad design or bad user experience. 83% will leave if it takes too many clicks to get to the information that they want to get to. 40% will never return if they've had a bad experience on your website. And 50% of sales are lost because people can't actually find their way to complete the sale. So clearly, there's a lot at stake for us here. So the key question is, what should we do about this? How do we ensure good usability for our customers while also achieving our business goals? So to help us sort this out, we've assembled a panel today, each of whom brings a valuable perspective to this topic. So let me quickly introduce them to you. Tara, of course, we've met, Tara O'Doherty from Cossette Communications. We have Terry Constantino, the co-founder of Usability Matters, a Toronto-based customer experience design studio. We have Newton Asare II, who's a CEO of ClientDesk, who are providers of web apps to help brokers and insurers digitize their customer experience. And we have Adam Mitchell, president of Mitchell & Whale Insurance Brokers, who, as of this morning's video, which you all saw earlier, is now pending internet video star. So we're waiting to see just how viral that goes. So now I'd like to ask each of them just to very quickly give us an overview of the type of work that they do in their professional work that is in the field of usability. So Tara, could we start with you?
Sure. Yes, I'm in customer experience and user experience. I think we already covered that one off. But I started in usability. Scary enough, I started designing planes for Boeing, coming out of a human factors degree. So my whole focus was figuring out how to make things usable so things don't crash. Several planes I worked on, I suggest not flying the 737 anymore. I was pretty young. So now I work with clients. We talk about the interface, but I spend a lot of time in usability labs, so testing things for usability, diagnosing things for usability. So usability is still the core structure of my day-to-day.
Terry?
Right, hi. So yeah, usability matters. We've been around 14 years, and we've focused on the same thing throughout, which is helping our clients make things more usable, and as well as understanding their users. That's the basis of it. And then also evaluating the usability. So some of the same things that Tara spends her days on. And our tagline is technology should work for people. Again, building on what Tara said earlier today.
Thank you, Terry.
So with ClientDesk, when it comes to usability, our focus is helping brokers create unique digital experiences using web and mobile technologies. So that's exactly what we do. And to build on Terry's point, it's again making the technology for the people, make it usable in that sense.
And I'm feeling incredibly underqualified and shouldn't be trusted to design jets or apps or communication strategies. Just a small business that's growing and investing heavily in marketing. So the usability is to make sure that we get a return on the marketing of those strangers that are meeting and seeing our brand.
Okay, super. Thanks, everyone. So I think we've got a variety of different perspectives here that could be very useful in helping us sort through this topic. So let's get into our discussion. I've prepared some questions that I'd like to direct to our panelists, but we want to save some time at the end. So save up your questions, and we'll allow lots of time at the end so you can ask your questions as well. So Terry, I'd like to start with you. How would you explain what usability is, this very confusing term?
Well, I think you made a good start with the slide that you just showed a few minutes ago. And while it is more than how easy it is to use, that is the core of it. But we often talk about the difference between useful, usable, and pleasurable. And so looking at all of those aspects ultimately makes it a better product. And usability is a quality of an experience. There are some hard measures that you can do, but it's also a qualitative endeavor as well. Very context-based, as you also mentioned. So bringing that context into play.
So how would you position it within the overall customer experience?
So those other aspects, if we call usable, that center one, the usefulness and the pleasurable are part of that customer experience. And then we also look beyond the customer, could be your employees, your partners, whoever those users might be, that target audience that you mentioned earlier in the slides. So it's a key part of it, obviously. So there's the usability, and then there's the useful and pleasurable, and then there's the touch points outside of the digital interface, which are part of the customer journey, obviously. And then even getting further beyond that, which is to the people who have to deliver the service, and that's service design. So it's kind of an onion that unfolds.
That's super. So Tara, let's get you in on this. So there's usefulness, there's usability, ease of use, there's look and feel. How do we tie all these together? How do we balance those things?
That's a really good question. Not like all of your questions are good. Usefulness will always trump usability, and there are studies to back that up. So you will put up with more sort of not knowing where something is if in fact the end reward is more useful. But beauty of that experience, and if that experience has usability issues, it can impact the brand in a negative way. So yes, the site is useful, and that's important. Like I really need to I need to change my credit card number, update my address. Those things are useful. Get a new quote online, useful. But if the experience is subpar, takes me too long, I make too many mistakes, which are usability, time, effort, reward on the end, then it can impair it. You'll think less of the brand, but you put up with it. So people will put up with bad usability for usefulness, but it's not something to count on.
Okay, super. So we all live this every day in our own adventures on the web. Adam, let's get you in on the discussion here. So what do you hear from your customers, and how important is usability, usefulness in the insurance business?
So I'd be careful about asking the customers or waiting for your customers to tell you what they need in the experience. The famous quotes of Henry Ford saying, if you ask your customers what they want a faster horse and buggy, they don't yet know. I think usability and the user interface is such a new space. There's there's no way that the customer mass as a whole that you can survey is going to be up to date with what the best workflow is. To give full credit where it's due on how important it is, I really like Sharif's quote. So on a show of hands, this is to point out usability, how many people use mobile banking, right? All of us. And then he likes to ask, how many of you would take $1,000 for me right now to move to a bank that doesn't have mobile banking and you have to go into the teller? Right? Clinton, the manage up at $1, but no one else, right? Usability really matters. You can go 2,000, 5,000, to the point that you realize, no, this is really friggin' convenient. I'm not moving. This is now a base standard. So
you're saying that customers want it, but they don't really know what they want?
I would be really hesitant to survey your audience and ask them what you want this to look like and take the massive answer. I think you need to keep designing to remove hurdles and steps, and you need to be starting to tell them what they want. And we're now in a world of predictive analytics and modeling of Amazon, where you need to know what they want before they know it and be suggesting it to them and elegantly guiding them through the workflow. That's now becoming the standard.
Terry, do you have some thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think that an issue is that you don't want to ask them what they want or ask them to design. You want to ask them the questions that they know the answers to, which is how they do their work, that sort of thing. So a lot of innovation can come from understanding users and their tasks and their mindsets. So some of that upfront work is super valuable as you get further in, and then the evaluative touch points with your customers are important.
So customers may not know exactly what they want, but the information they provide is essential to designing a good experience.
Well, understanding what they're doing, what their context is, how they're working is super important. So, for example, we did some insurance work recently where we went in to talk to brokers, and we did a contextual inquiry where we sat with them and understood their work so that we could go back to our insurance client, and help map a new experience. But we, at no point did we say, what do you want, or, how would you design it? Rather, we asked them about the things they know, which is how they work.
It's not what they typically say of consultants who borrow your watch to tell you what time it is.
I didn't know they said that.
So,
Can I just comment on this? Because one of the things that is a struggle, and it's on the same topic, I do agree. You should never ask people openly, what do you want, and leave it at that, because they'll be sitting there for hours. They're not designers. But the problem is that if I have 50 features and functionality, things I'm considering launching on the website, if I'm you or anyone, I probably have a good indication of where the market's going and what people need. Obviously, they want to change their information. Self-service is a big thing to take the load off of them calling you. Being able to update their emails so you can have all of that. So the question becomes, if you have a listing and you've done the background research, then what do? Do you just build it? Do you sit there and talk to 5 people? So what we've done is we moved into something I'm calling, it doesn't really have a name, I just call it a feature and functionality study. And what we do is we create like 20 of these little cards, if you will. Imagine ideas, it could be a little mock-up. And we ask people, we'll ask like 1,000 people and say, here's a bunch of little cards, and each is a little feature, functional piece of content. And in the center of the screen, it's like a video game, is wow, this would be amazing, to this is like the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, to I have no idea what you're talking about. So it's a scale, and so what they do is they look at the feature or function based upon who they are and decide to drag and drop it into one of the buckets. So what we're looking for with 5 buckets on the screen, it's like a video game. We're looking for the wow effect. Everybody wants the wow. So because I segmented you and I know you're a new customer, you're an old customer, you're this or that, I can look at that wow bucket and go, wow, 80% of my customers want this. So let's build that. The key is the days of throwing it up and seeing what sticks is extremely expensive and slow. Where you can do something like that and use different technology, it can take like 4 days to do in and out. But never open-ended. Like, you have to bring something to the table or you're going to waste people's time.
Okay, super. Newton, let's get you in here.
Can I jump in to build on these points, if you don't mind?
Sure.
Just to validate the comments from my fellow panelists. Within the startup world or technology world, this is exactly what we do. And the term that we utilize or call it is validated learning. So you get out in front of your customers or your potential end user, and you understand their workflow, any inefficiencies that they're having. So for ClientDesk, we actually went and sat in brokers' offices to understand what challenges they're actually having. And then based on that, we started to figure out which pieces we need to build or what we need to digitize. So they have the loop where they call it, it's learn, measure, or analyze what you've learned, and then you go and build out the technology or build out the website or any feature that you are looking to do. So the panelists are 100% correct with what they're saying here, and we've actually internalized that at our company.
Now staying with you, Newton, so you are in the interesting position of trying to design for a mobile world, something that previously had only probably existed in a desktop type of world. So what difference does the fact that we're dealing with mobile now make to trying to, Newton, I said Newton, didn't I? Yeah. Okay, super. So tell us what's different about mobile.
So mobile, when it comes to usability, what we like to say is mobile is, or the A in usability is accessibility, and that's the benefit of mobile. We have this device pretty much with us 24/7. We sleep, it goes into our bed with us when we go to night, we sleep right beside it. Some people take it to the bathroom, it's with us 24/7, right? So that's the benefit of mobile, is the accessibility factor when it comes to now, when we discuss usability. Accessibility would be the first component, ensuring that you're able to provide a solution that's accessible by your policyholders at all times. Building on Adam's question there, I was literally going to ask the same question, and to show of hands, how many people in here have a smartphone and then use a banking app? And then how about a telecommunications app? Maybe Rogers, TELUS, anything of that nature? And the reason, my follow-up question there would be, why? Why do you have these apps on your phone? Anybody? To make your life easier. Exactly, right? So that's the main benefit, where it's accessible, and then it's convenient for you to be able to complete any transactions that you're looking to do at that point in time. So now when we look at insurance, the goal here is to bring that same consistent experience that you are getting right now with your app, from a banking side or from a telecommunication side, and provide that to policyholders.
Newton Tara spoke in her talk about how the mobile world was really for real-time kind of micro transactions, and yet there's lots of things we have to do that don't fall within that basket. How do we address that? If you're designing the customer experience on mobile, how do you address both the micro task but also the other things that we'd love to do on our web presence?
It comes down to simplicity of the mobile solution. Again, I think Tara did a great job of capturing that. Say we're looking to bring in a quote and then do the underwriting for a policyholder. You do not, on your mobile solution, you do not want a form that is 20 questions long, as Tara mentioned. It's going to be maybe 4 or 5 questions, the main information that you do need to initiate the process, and then from there, you either follow up with the policyholder electronically, either via live chat or email, or if you had to, get on the phone and then call the policyholder and complete the transaction there. So yeah, I think it just comes down to making the process a bit much more simpler than it would be on a desktop.
So Terry, let's get into the process side of things. We've got a pretty daunting task here to create a compelling customer experience, be it mobile or omni-channel. What's the process side of this? How do we make this happen?
Well, we focus again on involving users in the design process. So right from idea generation to iterative design, as Newton was mentioning, where you're constantly learning and evaluating and putting designs in front. So I think that's critical and a piece that is easily overlooked, and easy to think that it's too costly to do it, but it's too costly not to do it. That's the real problem, because how many things get created that are ultimately not successful for the very reason that they don't meet the needs of the target audience.
So you talk about cost. So what sort of time and effort and resources are required to get there?
Well, you know, there was a time where it was very linear, the way the research and the involvement of users was, but now it's iterative, as Newton said. So it's not really more time consuming. It works a lot in parallel.
So if someone said, I need to do a total revamp of my customer experience, how long will it take me? What would you answer to that?
how long is a piece of string? would be how I would answer that question.
Well, if we focused on the low-hanging fruit and how can we get to that, first major milestone?
Again, it really depends on the situation, but if people are looking for something they can do immediately to start to address this, if they've not, especially if they've not addressed it previously, would be to gather what you do know about your customers and their tasks. So a lot of times that's in people's heads and not in any other place, and it's not shared amongst the folks that are going to be involved in creating the product. So I would say that would be a starting place, and then actually try some of the tasks. It's shocking to me when I go into a client's office and I find out that they've never tried to do what they're asking their customers, employees, whoever the system user is. They've never tried it themselves. Or put it in front of someone else too and watch them and just see. So there's those are like baby steps, and obviously ultimately you can get much more sophisticated around how you're involving users and how you're gathering information, but yeah.
Adam, from the business perspective, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, so not the expert. How many people in this room are either own, are responsible for, or work for a company that has a website? Right. Base, standard, we all have it. Flip it for a second. How many people would be absolutely cool with saying, we're only going to sell to female customers? Pretty stupid business move. Bill kind of likes it. Sounds good to me. Here's one of the low-hanging fruits on one of the action items you go for. You can't argue with the reality that 50% of the web traffic is now on this little bad boy and only trending one way, soon to be 60, 70, and 80, and this is going to be more powerful and affordable than the other things you buy. How many people in this room that everyone put their hand is going to say they have a kick-ass experience on a mobile device on their website? There's a big gap. That's not a difficult or expensive task. You can flip your website to responsive and recode it over. Relative cost, if you want to be liberal with it, might be $5,000 to $10,000. That's throwing a lot of extra money out the window, but you have just included 50% more customers out there. Because it's easy to imagine male-female division. You don't always realize that 50% of the traffic, and you don't matter to anybody under 20 if you don't exist on the smartphone. So that's one of the low-hanging action items.
So what would you say in terms of its priority for your business and how much you're willing to spend in time and effort and dollars in order to have that good mobile experience?
A lot. At equal or more than you are willing to spend on marketing. Because sending marketing dollars and good qualified leads to a crappy sales team, which is essentially your website on poor usability. It is a crappy resume, it is a crappy sales team, it does a bad job, it's going to bounce people out. So if you don't have a good foundation for people to land where they can do what they want to do easily, on the devices they want to do it, when they want to do it, you got to be willing to fix that.
Okay, so it's the new...
I'll comment there to build on Adam's point. It comes down to credibility, and as you mentioned, that you won't exist to those under 20 if you don't have a website or a mobile application. That is true. If you think about maybe 50 years ago, the way that a company was assessed is you need to have a brick and mortar store. If you didn't have one of those, somebody would be less likely to shop with you because you're not credible in that sense. We've moved away now from the brick and mortar stores to now it's the web and mobile presence to say that yes, you're a viable business and this is a company I want to work with. If they invest in their technology, that means they invest in their products, and that means they care about us as the end user or the customer. So it really reflects on the brand overall and the credibility with the end users, which is your current customers as well as potential customers.
And Google's now, sorry to jump in, Joe. Google is going to think of you differently and serve you differently as an answer. If you have a mobile site, if you Google anything while you're sitting here on your mobile device, it will prioritize and you'll see who has a mobile solution for you. And they'll come up higher because that's the client experience they want to serve.
And in fact, there was about a year ago, Google introduced a new release nicknamed Mobilegeddon is what they called it. And not only do they reward you if you have a good mobile presence, they punish you if you have a bad mobile presence. So if you want to be found on Google, you've got to be there.
So I just want to comment to clarify, because I always get a little concerned when people are throwing the term mobile around. I just want to make sure, so, God, that's annoying, that back feed. Smartphones, if we're going to use Google definitions, Google defines smartphone as mobile. Google does not define tablet as mobile. The research is showing that the tablet interfaces, I know you have one right in front of me, but most people are two-screening, meaning they're using their tablet when they travel to watch movies, or they're using their tablet at home in front of the couch. So when Google talks mobile, if you actually look it up, they classify it as smartphone, and that's why a lot of our interfaces when we're developing them, we're not to diss responsive is great, is we're going mobile first. So we're starting to design the small things, make the experience amazing for this, and then as it blasts out to the bigger screens, that's when we're adding more content. So 100% agree, like mobile first is the way to go, and understanding that your screen is much more limited. And then the experience that should be delivered to tablet is basically a touch version of your full site.
So let's stick with you for a moment there and talk about that. How do we create the overall experience that involves both the website, the tablet, and the mobile device, and the smartphone, let's say?
It's easiest to start at the small, lowest common denominator, figure out what the tasks are that people want to, here are the tasks that people want to do, here are the business objectives you want to achieve, figure out what works in the middle, take the device and literally prioritize what gets put in there. The other thing to remember is we're not American, we don't have unlimited data plans, and as much as we hit up Wi-Fi a lot with our phones, that's why people do like to consume video, but within fractions, like 30 seconds, it starts to suck up a lot of your data. So don't start playing videos left and right on people's phones. Understand what tasks they want to achieve, contextually, what you can pre-populate or know about them, so they don't have to do data entry. And then work from that small phone, and as you're going up, then add more storytelling and things like that. So if you can make it great small, then as you're going up, it'll be easier. And that's usually how we do it now.
Okay, super. So Adam, going back to you for a moment there. So how well equipped are brokerages to embark on this journey? What would we need to do to be better equipped?
I think they have the opportunity to be incredibly, there's three panelists up here to my left that, all offer services to help you be equipped and address your customer better. If you want to do it, you can do it. My only point is don't go for these fine refining points of, pre-filling data and the best things when you can't even be displayed. So the business case in my mind for why go mobile first? Well, because more than 50% of the people, that's the greater investment, they're going to be the ones viewing you. So you start there, and then you adapt to the other people that are still on the other side. Everybody can do it. There's not actually a big barrier to entry for the technology, the access, and the cost is falling every day.
So Newton, if I can get you back in here. So a lot of people are embarking on this for the first time, but what can we learn from other industries, from where others who've already confronted these challenges?
When looking at other industries, I think it comes down to, we can go over the general components of speed, ease of use, mobile websites. However, I think for insurance and for brokers, something that could be really beneficial to start to focus attention on, what it comes down to is, yes, you're providing these solutions, but then what are you able to extract from providing these mobile solutions or a desktop solution to your policyholders? And that comes down to the data. I think that's one of the most important areas when you look at other industries. Adam used a great example when he talked about Amazon. The reason why Amazon's able to provide such an intuitive, simplistic experience is the data that they're actively collecting on each customer. That's what allows them to determine, hey, what are the main areas on this one website that users are clicking? Again, going back to Tara's point, what actions are they completing? If we have 20 buttons and all of our users are only clicking 3, maybe we need to redesign the solution to only provide these three solutions, right? So it's, I think it's taking a deeper look at the data and how you can start to collect data on your policyholders their activities, them as individuals, because that'll even influence the type of content that you're able to push out to them and when, right? And then that will definitely benefit your sales process, the user experience overall, and the overall experience, I'd say, for both the policyholder and intern.
And just to knock that home, and I was pretty shocked. We had one particular insurance website, we were looking at Hotjar, that tool I was talking about, and it shows you both mobile experiences as well as desktop and tablet. So I was flipping between, and I couldn't believe, and I triple checked, I looked at the click maps, the heat maps, and then I went back again, looked at the videos, that people on mobile were looking at completely different FAQs than people on desktop. Completely different. And I thought, that actually nailed it home about tasks. So when they're looking, so if they're doing that and coming in looking for specific things, then that told me in essence our site's not answering those, and that we should actually be looking perhaps at different content or different needs, the contextual relationship of, you know, I'm out in the field, I'm looking for a coffee shop or this or that, XYZ. So when you see it at the content level, I think that you got to think beyond just tasks. Sometimes it's as simple as FAQs are completely different.
Super. Terry, Newton started to talk about what we can learn from other industries. Are there things that you've seen in your practice that are being done in other industries that we should be looking at adopting here?
Well, I think users don't make a big distinction between, you know, between industries or sectors or any of that. They have experiences, and I think Tara did a great job of pointing out some of the things that are quite common that you know, pretty much everyone can do across industries. But it's always good to look to those that are ahead and have some money to put behind it. So financial, of course, has been highly transactional and is also very content heavy. So they are working towards paring it down. Mobile has been great for focusing teams on what's important. It's been, over the years, it's been easier and easier to throw more and more and more stuff on the website, and now getting teams to focus on mobile first has been super helpful in that way.
So should we look at Amazon and Facebook for
well,
ideas?
This is the problem, is that there's best practices and then there's dominant practices. And so we do have to account for the fact that Google does certain things certain ways, and we certainly see in user testing that people expect all site searches to work like Google, and never would of course think that we don't have the kind of resources to throw at that Google does. So people just don't make the distinction between those things. So sometimes we do things that are because it's easy to learn, so learnability becomes an issue as well. So sometimes we do look at those dominant practices.
Sometimes it influences what people expect, right? Even though it might not be best practice.
Yeah.
You mentioned the word testing. Tara, I'd like to come back. You talked briefly about testing in your presentation there. So how do we undertake this A/B testing? How technical does that need to be?
When you're looking at A/B testing or optimization in general with kind of comparing your taglines or comparing headers or comparing a different layout, you're going to need to work with your development partner in essence. You yourself will have to come up with the strategy or the copy. I always believe that's more important to be strategic in A/B testing and get them to implement than trying to do it by kind of throwing things at the wall. Let's keep moving things around. Let's move it around because we noticed no one was scrolling down here, so let's put it up there. Did it go better? Yes. We realized people are not really noticing our call to action. Should we move it or change the color? That is all strategy. And then the implementation of it through Optimizely or different tools. Again, it's a simple code like Hotjar, you plop it in, and nowadays like you can go into interfaces, and I love it because they open the door for us people who are strategists as compared to a dev guy, where they give us the control, because it's all cloud-based. I'm like, I'm changing that button red. So it gives you all the power to move things around, which is a bit dangerous, but in essence, it allows you to, it's been simplified. Like you don't need to worry about that.
Is this something that requires expert guidance? Can your own webmaster do it?
Oh yeah, well your own webmaster can drop the code in, and then honestly you yourself, anyone, like my mom, my kid brother could do it. It's so simple.
So Adam should be spending his weekends setting up A/B tests?
He should spend his weekends putting in Hotjar. Because you have to identify what's wrong, then diagnose it, then fix it. So running an A/B test, you haven't identified anything yet. So when we're talking about what people need and what they want, the first step before you throw anything is understand what's working or not working.
So to some extent, A/B testing sounds very tactical. I'm changing the color of a button, I'm moving something around, I'm changing an image or something. But ultimately, we're trying to achieve business goals. So how do I make sure that I've got the right focus on business goals as I go about that?
Well, the first thing you need to do is have business goals written down and track them. You may laugh, she's laughing because she knows, because you'd be shocked. Like I would sit down with AT&T, one of the largest companies in the world, and I said, so how many people start the checkout? They're like, ooh, we don't know. I'm like, what do you mean? Well, how many people finish? We don't know that either. And I'm like, okay. So step number one in anything is treat it like a business. It is a business. So how long people spend on your site, not that important to me. How many people bounce? What is more important is understanding if your site is for conversion or self-service is the numbers that go into that process. Like how many people are coming in, how many are churning or leaving the process, how many are signing up. Like have your numbers written down so you can compare when you change the button to red to sign up for my account, you realize that you've upped it by 10% because numbers matter.
So there needs to be a strategy in place and goals. You need to set up your tests, and then you need to be able to track. And then you need to be able to make a decision about what to do next.
Yes.
So Adam, back to you. So how well equipped are you guys to undertake this type of activity?
Yeah, I'm dying over here biting my tongue. I want to pile on completely and just hammer it home. I was up on weekends and evenings and the one doing the A/B testing, because who doesn't know what A/B testing is? So everyone knows what A/B testing is. We're trying two different pieces. So Optimizely, that she's talking about, is an inexpensive, easy way to drive landing pages. If you don't have traffic, you can drag people through AdWords to test this button, this image, that image, this slogan, that, and that's exactly what we do. And it was me doing it until we got someone full-time. I think it's incredibly important to continually test it because no one can tell you about your customers, and I can tell you the findings on my site, but Jocelyn's going to have a different demographic in a different area, and every different business and brokerage, whether you're to customers or people, are going to be interacting differently. So it's important to keep
within
this.
your team would you need to involve in this type of activity?
In my opinion, it's sort of high-level pieces, and knowing your business goals. This is usability of a website. I believe that all websites only have 3 goals. It's either going to be to convert for a lead opportunity, to be a resume for you to be checked out, and then in turn you're going to talk to somebody, or to convert e-commerce. I don't think we're into an e-commerce era of insurance just yet. It's coming. So I think that leaves most brokers in the convert for lead space. So on your number 1 goal of shopping cart start or fall off or bounce, everything is this going to lead me to have more conversions of people to talk to or less? Happier customers or not?
Okay. So now we've talked a lot about mobile. Newton, are there other technologies that we should be thinking about that are either there today or coming down the pipe that are going to complicate our lives further?
There are a fair amount that are emerging. I think everyone in this room, I've seen these faces at a few other conferences, so you guys are aware of what's coming. You know, the connected cars, self-driving cars, wearables is going to be a big factor as well too. The ability to be able to interact with the consumer in a sort of an autonomous manner there. But I think one of the ones that are emerging right now that's really important to take a look at is the bots. Right, so I'm not sure if anyone see. There's been a big press release regarding Facebook, and then being able to have the ability for businesses to be able to enable bots that an individual comes into live chat. It's pretty much artificial intelligence. Somebody comes into a chat, they put forth a request. Now you have a bot that's able to interact with them, similar to pretty much what Adam would be doing with a policyholder. You have a bot now doing that for you. So it's pretty much a virtual agent almost that's going to be interacting with the policyholder.
So my bot will contact your bot, they'll do lunch?
Possibly. As long as your bot's paid.
But they'll only eat a bit.
Yeah. Good fun. But yeah, that's something, and I don't think that's something that anyone should be scared of. I think it's a matter of embracing that technology, figuring out how do we now take advantage of a bot and customize that to meet the needs of our policyholders, and ensure that we have that experience available to them for those who utilize that channel. Not
Actually,
everybody's going to be on that, but
I'd be interested in any of the panel's view on this, but I've seen some statistics that say that a surprisingly high amount of the traffic that comes to your website is actually automated traffic. It's not real people. It may be as high as 30% or even 50% of the traffic that's coming to your website is not actually real people. Has anybody encountered that? How do we deal with that issue? Even some of the feedback that we're getting in terms of what happened with our A/B test, it wasn't a person, it was a bot that was executing that step.
And you want to make it easy for them most of the time, because that's how Google indexes your site, et cetera, et cetera. So for search engine optimization, some of the things we've been talking about, paring things down and being clearer and very task-driven has helped with, when we look at mobile, but it also, that more simplistic structure of content has helped a lot with search engine optimization. And then also, Newton talked about a certain kind of accessibility that we all have, but then there's also accessibility for those who have different kinds of impairments.
Could you go into that?
Yeah, and so I think it's also worth thinking about designing for that, because actually usability and accessibility and the ability to be crawled by bots, they are all driven from the same well-structured content under the hood. So, and then also what Tara's talking about in terms of serving up the right kinds of content to the right kind of devices. I think part of the future too is just that ecosystem of devices. So we're talking about two-screen experiences now, but how they're interacting with other hardware in your and software in your environment is going to be big, and then data driving behind that is really what's driving it.
Super. And we went down the Google path, the findability path there. So, Tara, what would you say in terms of how usability and findability relate?
Well, findability, as I was discussing earlier, if people can't find it or just discover it, then you're a little bit lost. It's very much tied to SEO and the language that people are using. So a lot of times your sites are suffering right now because you're using acronyms or jargon or internal insurance speak as compared to human speak, which is kind of a weird thing to say, but it's compared to Klingon. But you want to make sure that the terms that you're using are the terms that people are searching in Google for, but also that can contain the information. So if I'm coming to your About Us section, I might expect to find contact us and different things. So we want to make sure that it's as clean as possible for SEO, but there's always going to be a conflict at certain points between usability, what is easiest to understand, SEO, what Google wants, and accessibility, which basically from a governance perspective at the Ontario level, which has compliance laws, basically state in its simplest form, which is the toughest thing to do, is any link you have, if I click on that link and it's called About Us, I must land on a page called About Us. Page links and page names must match. And SEO loves that because it's /About Us. But what happens is when you guys go out there and create all these links called Learn More, and that's a mess for a whole bunch of people, it creates a mess. So there's going to be a balance, but accessibility will always trump usability. Usability will always trump SEO. And that's where Google ends up on the bottom.
Okay. It's certainly a challenge.
Yeah, you have to wrestle with it every day.
And when we talk about A/B testing, sometimes we're not just A/B testing for user impact, but also for Google impact.
Absolutely. Like every word needs to be strategic and plotted. Like if you don't know why something's on your page, then get rid of it. Like every word, every pixel to profit has to be tracked. And it's a strategy decision.
Okay, super. So Newton, I'd like to get back to you here. So we've talked primarily about the end customer in what we've been talking about so far, but in the broker ecosystem, there's more to it than that. So how do we deal with not just policyholders, but employees, partners, and others that we need to include in our design?
I think it comes down to a few of the concepts that the panelists had touched on before. Number one, identifying any inefficiencies and problems that are being faced by the brokers or CSRs within your organization. and then being able to identify which solutions you need to build or what technology that needs to be built to meet those needs. For example, if you're getting high call volume on certain questions or anything of that nature, maybe you need an option for a live chat, for example, that you can have individuals drive that communication through there, and then from there you're able to mobilize that live chat so then your brokers are not confined to just the office. They can be out on the go and be able to utilize that technology.
So if we're designing though for, on the one hand, attracting new customers, but on the other hand, serving existing customers, how do we deal with the conflict between those two?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily a conflict. It's just two different opportunities and two different challenges where your current customers are going to have particular needs, more servicing their current policy, having questions around that, and maybe additional purchases, while the customer who hasn't, or potential customer, your first challenge there is the education and getting them to understand what you're offering and why they need it, and then having that sales process there available to them. So I wouldn't call it challenges. It's just two opportunities and two different needs for those two markets.
Okay. We're going to open it up for questions in just a minute, but before we do, I'd like to ask each panelist, so what would your one piece of advice be for what our audience here should do when they get back to the office tomorrow? So who'd like to start on that one?
That end.
Oh, great. The base foundation is you make sure you matter on mobile, be viewable, be easy, and so that you can have a positive experience for the 50% of your customer base, the 50% of your prospect base, and for tomorrow's 60 and 70% when this traffic starts to far outweigh the desktop. It's low-hanging fruit for me.
I would echo Adam's point. He's 100% correct with that. And to make it actionable, I'll do a little shameless plug, and feel free to contact us to be able to get mobile and digitize your solutions.
Terry, how about you?
Yeah, I think I said this earlier. Try doing what you're asking your users to do, and whether it's a system that you provide or you partner with or have purchased, just try doing the key tasks that you want your clients to do, and see how that feels. And maybe you'll do it on mobile, maybe you'll do it desktop, but try it. You'll probably learn
So
something.
put yourself in the customer's
Yeah,
shoes.
and then I would say try to fix just one or two things. Don't try to fix everything at once. Don't look at it as a huge mountain that you have to climb. Every little bit helps.
Okay, super, Tara.
Agree, which makes my job easier at the end. I agree with everyone, and I think there's two kind of points, which is you can't be customer-centric if you don't involve customers. That's a basic law. So whether you're doing focus groups or survey gathering information or using Hotjar to watch people go through things, you need to identify the friction points and move from there. Without that, you're it always worries me when people start making changes based on gut feel or because you're not your user. Like, that's the bottom line. You have stuff in your head that you know about insurance that I could never even dream of. I don't know what a deductible is. Like, this is the reality with our average people out there. So, put the shoes under the user through various means and then identify what's going on, the opportunities, and then go from there. But mobile, obviously, should be one of the first things that you're focusing on for identification.
Okay, super. So who has a question for any of our panelists? Let's see, we have a microphone coming over to you.
Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on the digital space. Question is for Adam. Thank you for taking the lead on behalf of our brokerage distribution channel on the digital space. I think you're doing a great job. It's costing you a pile of money. And my question is a number of questions. Number one is the conversion rate on the theme of digitization and marketing. Number two is retention of that business. Number three is that business geared towards a certain segment of the products that we offer, such as automobile insurance. Number four is the age demographic that you're attracting through that marketing initiative. And number 5 is the future of it and how long you think you can hang in there long term.
What was number 1?
You wrote them down.
8 seconds.
8 seconds.
Yeah, that's good.
Is that a plane or?
Yeah.
I honestly missed what was the question 1. I wrote down 2, 3, 4, 5. Do you remember?
The first one was the
Conversion rate.
Conversion rate.
Conversion, cool.
Two was the retention.
Yeah, cool. I'll fire through them rapid fire, and I'm happy to chat with anybody afterwards. So I'll give away sort of all trade secrets and data, just hoping that the good karma piggy bank's watching and somehow come back. Conversion rate is a really interesting one. If you want to blend all the channels together, we're currently humming along at around 20% conversion rate. The real number in there is if you take 30 separate channels of different marketing components, the worst is around 2.3% conversion, and the best is at 80 to 90% relative around referrals. They're referrals from online traffic, so as you track it through, that warm handoff referrals we've all known for a long time, that's the best. Blend it all together, smush it together at 20, and our current game is fire the 2s and give the money back to the highest up the channel we can reinvest for more volume. Retention. The blended retention rate, again, same answer, is 85% if you take everything all mushed together. If you take the classic book of 2 million in business we bought 6-8 years ago, it is still humming at 98, 95, 98 varying per month. If you take the lowest of the channels, you're going to retain at 50, 40%. The worst demographics, we slice it up into a lot of categories that we can find a link to. If you take new young immigrants to Canada, there seems to be absolutely no concept of an annual contract. They'll flip and move at every single ad that will come, so fine, that's what it is. You blend it together, you can make a business case around 85, try and attract less of these, more of those, and keep going on. Products. That'll follow the search volumes of Google, so long as you're putting a fishing line into each one. The current pain point in the last iteration for a long time has been auto insurance. It's really friggin' expensive. It's commoditized in a sense that most all the products are pretty well identical, so they don't care. People will flip. There's a bit more traffic starting to build on the home insurance front and commercial side as people get comfortable online, and home insurance rates are going up, and the product is splitting, and a lot of companies, TD and State Farm, are stripping out water coverage, and other companies are adding it. Plane's back. Age. That's an interesting one, one of the biggest ones that I saw, and I got it out of the Navicom survey after the fact when we started studying the customers. So it was either 45 or 55% of our customer base was under age 45. And we have a massive swath in the 25 to 35 range, and a very few onto the 60 plus range, which creates a more demanding customer on the usability side and answering your phone and serving them. But these are also customers in my eye that will continue to buy more cars, bigger cars, cottages, and so on, as opposed to the back end that will be downsizing, getting rid of pieces, age, and the future. How long can we sustain it? Well, I'll answer that in one way. The current marketplace is selling books of business at 3 to 4 times, arguably. We currently acquire individual clients at 0.6 to 1.8 times, depending on the channel. So on that base, forever, something's got to give. I mean, does that answer it?
Okay, super, great answer. Other questions for our panel? Other hand, go on.
Thank you very much. The talk today has been really focused on the website. I'm wondering if you are aware of any tools similar to Hotjar, or I think it was Optimizely, for apps, for desktop apps. So if we wanted to monitor how our users are using our desktop apps, are there any tools to do that type of thing?
Oh, I don't know if there's loads. There were probably more that started on apps first, then they actually hit the desktop. I'll flip it over to you for your preferences, but they're ones that do recordings the exact same thing.
So I came at it from a different angle. I don't know which angle you're coming at it from, but as we were growing the team and bringing on people, I was highly suspicious of how much Twitter time we had versus actual work. There's a free program called Active Track, TRAK. It's ghostware that hides in the background. You download it onto a system and you get active screenshots of what's being used. So we signed all the normal internet use agreements for computer. This is given to you to use for work, and we want work done on these work computers and so on. I was pleasantly surprised with the experiment, as I can be a bit of a hypochondriac, worrying that the sky is falling and something's going terribly wrong. Clearly they're taking advantage of us, and it quelled those fears. To go through and see that somebody only signed into Facebook or social media accounts 10 minutes a day. Our worst culprit was an hour a day, and we noticed they eat lunch at their desk. So you got to walk through what kind of office you want to be and how you want to put that. But it's very good for figuring out how much time they're spending in any one of the apps. I'd be curious what you do with the data.
Okay, we have time for one more question. We get one more? Okay. Well, we've got one.
So at the start, we talked about usability, and I appreciate Adam sharing your experiences again too. But just for the other panelists, I just want to know from your perspective, for most brokers over the last, I'll say forever, in the digital space, it's been our website, which is more about, well, basically it's an online branch of who we are, technically. So how's our usability right now from a customer experience? And I think the only thing that we really do that's really customer facing to the most extent is online rating. So I'd just like to get your opinion on that as your experts in the field.
Would anybody like to take that one?
Well, I guess I'll jump in. In terms of offerings that you can provide to policyholders, as right now, if the website only serves that function, I think self-service is one of the biggest areas for opportunity for policyholders, either from a website standpoint or from a mobile application, to be able to allow them to make updates on their policy, changes, things like that. Even if it's not automated, if it gets picked out at checkout or anything of that nature, that's still an option. But I think another area to look at is it comes down to self-service, where they'll cut down time required from the brokers within your organization, the CSRs, as well as they will give the convenience, again, to the policyholder to let them do the action they want to do when they want to do it, similar to other industries.
Okay, super. I think that's all we've got time for. So I'd like to thank our panelists very much